Welcome to the NBTLT podcast with your guides to this magical journey, Lon and Zumi.
Welcome to another episode of the NBTLT podcast. I am Zumi, and Lonnie will not be here tonight recording with me, although he will have his own individual segment at the end of this one. His life is happening again. Shitty van. So you get me for about 30 minutes, and then you'll get Lonnie for about 30 minutes. So, I mean, it's not exactly a threesome, but you get the good of both of us. And boy, oh boy, do I have news for you. I am super, super, super happy. Well, I'm tired, but I'm super happy. So I've been working essentially two jobs now, because volleyball coaching season started, and I got my JV team all ready to go. And hopefully my schedule will be set now. I've been working like my regular job, and I've been going home at like 9 at night. So waking up at like 4 or 5 something in the morning, and then arriving at 9 o'clock just to like shower, go to bed, and then start all over again. And then on the first week of our tryouts ending, I had a tournament today, and I'll get to that shortly. But first, like I just wanted to say, like I don't know how if there's any coaches out there that listen to this, like we actually talk to every single kid that tries out. And we either tell them if they made the team or if they didn't, and we do our best to tell them why they didn't make the team. That's something that in the 5 years of coaching with Westview, it's the one thing that I like the most, because I do believe that the coward way of doing stuff is to just post a list and then just like walk away and just leave the kids to find out for themselves. Did I make the team? What number were you? 103? Yeah, you didn't make it. No, we don't like that. So we actually we call them individually, and this year we had a lot of people showing up for tryouts, and we had to cut essentially 23 kids, like 23 good kids. And unfortunately our program doesn't allow for a lot of people, so varsity took 14 kids, the freshman took 14. I was the only one who took 15, and it was fucking brutal. I mean, it's so brutal. It's just one of the hardest things that we do, but like I said, if they go and they show up, and we think it's a philosophy that the minimum we can do is give them an explanation, so they deserve it. They've earned that. So, but it doesn't take away the fact that it's essentially painful for us as well, because some of the kids were actually made the team, the freshman team, like on the previous year, or they made the JV team on the previous year, and this year they weren't good enough for varsity or good enough for JV, and we just have to cut them. And because we had so many freshmen showed up and try out, there's no reason behind to take a sophomore like on the freshman team, because all of the freshmen are super tall, super athletic. It's just, yeah, it's brutal. So if there's any coaches out there, and I kind of want to know. I want to know what you guys do. I want to know if how do you deal with the process? Because I know for me, it was kind of like it usually takes about a day or two to kind of like reset and say like, okay, now I have my team. Like, it's yes, it was sad, but I'm over it or whatever. Uh, but I don't know. Like it's uh, I want to know what you guys do. If there's any coaches out there, or are you one of those that still post a list? Uh, like I said, it's just the way we do things, and everybody that I've talked to and mentioned that we do this, they're usually they just they give me those eyes like no way, but they also go like, yeah, it makes sense. I think they do deserve that, you know the reason why they're being cut. So I've been working, like I said, extremely late, and then we finished our tryouts on Wednesday. So I essentially had him on Thursday, Friday, and then today, Saturday the 4th, I had a tournament, an all-day tournament. And the reason why I'm like super happy is because we actually won the tournament. We won the whole thing. So we won our we were number one on our pool, and then throughout in playoffs. So we didn't lose a single game. We lost one set. That's it. One set during pool play, and we didn't lose at all. And it was just so fucking amazing. It's like my team really looks really really well. I'm like really excited and stuff that we're gonna do. And it's just like 2 days, and they they go ahead and win tournament. And what's special about this tournament is it's the La Jolla tournament. Is that in the history of Westview, like there's no program, or not any program. There's no neither JV, freshman, or varsity has ever won that particular tournament. And it's like our white whale. And finally, we just pulled like Cavaliers and just won it for the first time. And I did tell my boss that I was gonna win that tournament eventually, and we finally did it. I mean, I didn't win it. The team won it, right? My players won it, but I want to think that I had something to do in the thing, and positioning the right person in the correct spot. So that was a lot of fun. And which brings to my have you guys ever like won a tournament, or won like certain games, and then the other coaches and the players just give you these fucking nasty eyes? Yeah, I had that all freaking day. And I'm that kind of guy who I always have a smirk. I've been told it's not I don't do it like on purpose. I always have a smirk when I shake hands, and I go I always say thank you, or I don't say good game or whatever. I say thank you, and I try to shake hands. Yeah. So I think a lot of like the kids and the coaches take it as like I'm mocking them or something, but uh, in a way I am, right. But it was so funny because like my kids started to pick up on like some of the stuff that other guys were doing, and they were just like making these jokes. And as the coach, I kind of have to like be, I guess, the adult. But on this one, I couldn't hold it. I was just laughing. I was cracking up so hard with them, just like so. We'll serve. So I want to give a shout out to all of my Westview JV players. You guys did an excellent job. I'm very proud of you. I know we're gonna be doing a lot of great stuff. We're gonna do great this season, and we have another tournament next week. So uh, hopefully, for our audience, I'll actually have Lonnie on the other end, talking about just stuff, I guess, anything and nothing. So so yeah. I don't know. I would like to hear some stories from you guys because I don't know. I don't have access. Or I didn't. It's not that I don't have access. I'm pretty fucking lazy, so I didn't check the email list to see if we had any questions for the week. But most likely we don't because you guys are lazy too. I'm assuming. So so yeah, it's I'm pretty stoked. Oh, and by the way, like I told my I text my boss that you know I told him like, hey, before the because the freshman coach went as an assistant because he just likes to watch volleyball games, and he's just it's like I'm telling like I got with the parents and the kids, and I told him like don't tell coach that we won like this, like we just don't tell him that we I'm gonna tell him that we lost and we did poorly, and then on Monday when we show up we're gonna show up with this plaque and these trophies and medals and stuff. Because so I send him a text message and I'm like, hey, um, I, I, I just want to let you know before you hear the sad news. We always have next year, right? and I told him like that we did poorly and that we need to work on like defense and stuff. And he just sent me like a short text like saying like what place did and what place did you guys finish, or who did you win or whatever. And I just answered vaguely like, well, we kind of did okay in our pool, and then we lost our first playoff match or whatever. So Monday, hopefully like the parents will respect my petition or my request, and Monday he'll find out that the curse is finally broken. So pretty stoked about that. Um, and uh, I'll let you guys know next week how it went, and I'll probably let you know how that tournament went as well. So again, shout out to all my Westview JV players. Congratulations, you guys deserve it. And uh, and yeah, and I was really happy that like my team did. There's like no like they're just like the nicest kids, like no trash talking, nothing like that. They celebrate like within their courts, but never like insulting somebody else, which I did see a lot of that today, and it's just it just makes me even more proud of like being a coach at Westview. Because it's pretty bad when like a kid that probably has never played volleyball or has little experience, and then all those players are going like, "What are you doing, man? You should be like on this position. You should be moving over here." And then the coach goes like, "What are you doing there, buddy? You should be don't be looking around people. You should be looking like." So it's like yeah, essentially it's like I think some of the coaches are in a way bullies. So uh, so yeah, yeah, don't do that. If you're that coach that yells uh, at their players, or you state the obvious, stop it. Just stop it. Um, and changing subjects, we have. I did find out that I saw a new trailer. Deadpool 2 is coming out. I guess not soon enough. That's what the trailer said, but I'm looking forward for this movie. I actually like the first one because it didn't hide what it was. It's just like straight up uh, dicks and fart jokes and uh, lots of blood and gore and just action sequence. I thought it was a really really funny movie. So have high expectations for Deadpool 2. Well, not really. It's Deadpool. I know it's gonna be funny, so and I'll watch it. Uh, Hopefully, I don't know if it'll top the first one, but I mean, if you think about it, it's like the plot is just like so stupid and ridiculous. It's just like, all right, you're looking for somebody who can't cure you. Okay, cool. So yeah, this kind of remind me of one of those memes where because I don't have another human to interact with, I just have a microphone. It kind of sucks because I get no feedback. So it, it reminded me of this meme that I saw. And this is well, it wasn't a meme, it's like an actual conversation, like on that WhatsApp. And it said, when you don't have anything left to say, but you still try to save the conversation. So the guy said, the message was, so have you ever thrown a raccoon? It's just like, have you ever thrown a raccoon? I'm like, what? It's so freaking random. It's just, I can just imagine a guy like, grabbing a raccoon by the tail and like throwing it. Uh, yeah, it's kind of stupid, which is kind of like what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to save the conversation with, you know, stupid things to say. And another one that I saw, this one's actually pretty funny, I promise. It said, and I won't describe the picture because it's kind of gross, but it read that moment when you realize that a facial has a different meaning for men than it do for women. uh, Told you it was funny. Like, yeah, you can imagine that, like, that picture, and that's all I have, people, for you. Lonnie, hopefully we'll have a better story to tell you guys, something more, a little bit more entertaining. Um, I'm just like pretty excited that I won this tournament today, and yeah, I'm gonna have this smile in my face like all fucking week probably. So, which reminds me, speaking of work, I don't know, like I try to ask Lonnie if we like what was our like kind of like our demographic, and I figured that if you're like me, you're like working your little like cubicle and stuff. You have a computer in front of you, and you're allowed to listen to music or this podcast. Then it does it actually help? I mean, does the hour go by, or the 2 hours that we record go by that quick, or do you guys feel like we're actually dragging? I mean, we're trying to make it dynamic, and we're trying to get you guys involved because, I mean, yeah, when I talk to Lonnie, it's like me having a conversation with my friend. So essentially, we instead of just like the conversation going on tangents, we make this set list, and we have kind of like things that we try to not talk to each other during the week. And we'll just like write it on the set list, and but we want to get you guys involved because I think you guys deserve our value or opinion on subjects that don't matter. So I think we beat up around the bush in like NFL, but NFL is done, and I, like Lonnie, I don't think he watches NBA. Like I'll watch NBA like when the Lakers are good, but other than that, there's not a lot of people that are into like volleyball, so that's why I just kind of like mention it, but I don't go into details of like explaining more. So let me hear from you guys. Like it's we want to make this a podcast that you guys enjoy even more, and rather than that, us just like ranting about random shit. And well, speaking of random shit, the my search for my search in Craigslist started again. We're still looking for um, ways to promote this podcast. So you have it. If you have any ideas, or if you know somebody who's running a successful podcast and they wouldn't mind talking to us, that'll be great. If not, just remember erectile dysfunction disease. That's all I'm saying. You want to try and keep Mr. Happy, so do that now. And with that, I'll leave you guys, and Lonnie's segment will start, I'm assuming, right away. I don't know if he's going to put some bumper music, but as always, it's a pleasure to just check up on you guys. And next week we'll hopefully have Lonnie's car fixed, and he won't be dealing with that crap. We'll be here. We'll be talking about random stuff. Before I go, I didn't want to say, and Lonnie can hopefully Lonnie will listen to this first, but actually I'll make him listen to this first. So there's I wrote on the set list ghost stories. So I actually have a weird ghost story, and I know it's not Halloween or anything, but I've been wanting to talk to this for a while, because Lonnie was staying at our place in Palmdale, and he kind of had an experience with something paranormal, not necessarily ghosts, but paranormal. But I'll tell you mine. But I don't think mine is as intense as Lonnie's. So he'll tell the story in his segment. So what happened was that we lived in Palmdale, and there were you always have those random noises in the house, either like the wood expanding, or metal returning to because of the cold, right? So metal expands. The same thing with wood, and if they get wet, it expands, and if it dry out, they start making weird noises and whatnot. And for a while, we started hearing these random stuff around the house, things dropping and stuff. And I mean, I'm not. Well, at the time, I was just kind of nah, whatever. It's just because of the heat or because of the cold, and that's just normal in the house. This one time though, I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden I hear somebody whispering in my ear, and I mean, granted, I was half asleep, but so I just hear my ear. I hear, I'm hungry, and I'm just whatever. It's at the time my wife, it was just go away type thing, and I hear, I'm hungry, and all of a sudden I just hear this fucking yell, somebody just yelled in my ear. It just goes I am hungry, and I wake up literally just punching right next to me in the air, and there's nothing there, and I'm freaked out. And I'm panicking. I get up, and my ex-wife is just passed out, sleeping. And so later that day, I tell her, hey, were you talking in your sleep? Were you saying that something I'm hungry or whatever? And she's like, no, I heard that too, but I thought it was you. I thought you were just messing with me, saying that you were hungry and you got up to get something to eat. And I'm no, that wasn't me. And so yeah, that's my that's one of my ghost stories that I have, or I don't know, so it could have been a dream, but at that it definitely didn't feel like a dream. It felt like something was there yelling that they were hungry. And once Lonnie tells you what happens in that same house, I think you'll know where I'm coming from, because it was freaky as fuck. But I wanted to share that story. So if you have any good ghost stories, I want to hear them. And I'm pretty good at so don't tell me those fucking traditional stories about the girl that was like, oh, you know, she left like whatever a shirt or whatnot, and the taxi driver went and returned it, and it's like, oh, that was my daughter. She died like 20 years. That's I know all of those. I'm talking about like legit like paranormal ghost stories. If you have any, like let us know. We'll share it. Uh, and, and like I said, I at least I mean I can't deny what it felt like and stuff. And well, it's kind of like that old saying, like uh, how do you know that something is what you're seeing is a miracle and not schizophrenia? So yeah. So with that, I'll close my segment. Lonnie will tell you his ghost story that happened in the same house in Palmdale. Um, I feel sorry for the bastards that own that house now, but it's not my problem anymore. So kudos, yeah. And we'll see you next week, or I'll see you next week. And Lonnie, uh, take it over, buddy.
Welcome back to the second half of the special edition. Well, not really special edition, more like the lazy edition of the Nothing Better to Listen to podcast. I'm Lonnie, and this is the second half. The odd thing is I'm not going to really know exactly how to do all this, so you're going to have to bear with me. I have never recorded anything like this by myself without having Zumi or anything like that. He had his, I think he still has it, his other podcast that he does by himself, and I'm going to give it a shot. So I guess I'll start off with what's been going on with me. I was not able to do a recording with him this last Saturday just because I was pretty sick and I fell asleep pretty early on Saturday. Just couldn't do it. A lot of stuff going on, and ended up getting a cold, pretty bad one too. And I lost my voice for the most part on top of all that. So it kind of made for, it made it pretty much impossible for me to record, or else I would have sounded like an 1800s tuberculosis victim. So there was that. And then I just recently started school again, doing a degree in IT, of course. Everybody does that nowadays, but I figured I might as well use up the GI Bill that I have left. But I did get some cool stuff. I got, while I was off, I got some new nice, expensive studio headphones that I'm not wearing them now because I don't need to. I don't need to hear Zumi. Got those. I believe they're Sennheisers or something like that, but they're fantastic. And I got some other equipment. I got a nice little box with some foam to put all my stuff in so that my kids don't get into it. Oddly enough, we're starting to become a little bit more professional when it comes to some of this stuff, and we're trying to hone some of the things that we do. But enough about that. Zumi did put up some questions for me. Looks like he was asking me, as a person that works late, how do I cope with stress? Well, I guess the basic answer is you don't. You just kind of work through it. I've worked late before, much later than I'm working now. I'm actually home from work right now. And I think the biggest thing is that you have to prioritize things and you have to get into a routine. Anybody that's ever worked, swing shift or graveyard shift knows that, when you do that, when you're working that late, there's a lot of difficulties that come with that. Everybody's asleep, when you're home. Either that or my favorite thing was always, well, not my favorite thing, but it's my favorite thing to talk about and tell people about, is when you're working graveyard shift, people act like you're lazy because you sleep, till late morning to afternoon, and you drink if you have alcohol like I have now. You drink it pretty early in the morning, and people think you're an alcoholic when you're really not. That's like your nighttime. That's your relaxation time. And my favorite thing is like you wake up at noon and somebody will ask you, geez, you gonna sleep all day? It's like, well, shit, I've been home for about 6 total hours, so yeah, and it never ceases to amaze me that people just don't have the concept of graveyard shift, that those people that don't work it. And it's a difficult thing to get into, getting into graveyard shift, especially when you switch shifts like Zumi and I have done, being in the Air Force. Like, we didn't really have a shift. I mean, you had a normal time that you would go to work when you were at home, but when you go TDY or you're deployed, it was you had to mold your attitude around whatever schedule they were going to give you, because you could work 12 hours during the day one day, and then you go to bed, and then but they have you on a night flight the next day, and you have to kind of stay awake and then go work 8 to 10 hours at nighttime, and then switch right back to daytime. And it gets a little stressful, but I think if you can kind of laugh it off and pretend that it's not so bad, even though it might be, I think you can get over it. It's not too bad. But I did listen to as much of the Zumis as I could. I listened to pretty much the whole thing, but I know he wants me to talk about a few things, one of them being the ghost story, as he calls it, from I think it's Palmdale. But I figured that would be a much better thing to talk about when he's with me, just because it's, when you're telling stories, which I don't know if I'm the best storyteller. I know that I sound like a game show host, but I don't really have the best storytelling ability, in my opinion. I may be wrong, but that's just how I feel. I think it'd be better if I talked to him about that, so I will definitely mark it down, and we'll talk about it on the next episode that we're doing here in a few days. It's almost the weekend, so we'll actually have a real, podcast, or a real episode again where we're both here, but we figured this is a good way to keep it going. We didn't like having those dead spots where we just don't record anything for a week or 2 weeks. It's better to just keep it regular. And I'm sure that most of you agree, like some of people that I've heard say that they like having the, consistency. So we'll try to keep that up. But the other things that Zumi wanted me to talk about was Deadpool 2. Zumi, yes, I have watched the Deadpool 2 trailer, and I thought it was hilarious. Christelle didn't think it was so funny. But she's not really into that type of humor, I guess. It took her a long time just to get warmed up to Tropic Thunder, which I think is a fucking hilarious movie. But I think it might be the guy humor aspect of it. But yes, if there's one thing I can say about the first Deadpool movie is that, it's great because they knew what it was, and because they knew what it was, it just made it that much better, so they can make fun of it and all that other stuff. But there's some of the things that, he's asked me to talk about. The other thing you wrote down was Zumi is happy and bad sportsmanship. You know what? I'm actually going to speak about something else with the bad sportsmanship. The thing that I'm looking forward to the most about my kids getting into sports, perhaps later on, like when they get older, especially high school, is the wife and I always joked about being football parents. There's something special about being a football parent, is that you can go one of two ways. You can be one of those calm ones that supports the kid. I guess you could go 3 ways, but the 2 main ones. You can be the calm one that supports the kid and cheers him on, shows up to as many games as you can. But on the other hand, you have the extremists that are over the top, I would say. They're screaming and yelling. Their kid, in their eyes, is the best player on the field. And they, rip the referees for even the smallest thing that has to do with their kid in the game. And I tend to think that I'm going to be the latter, just because I love football. I love my kids, and the two mixed. I mean, I already yell and scream at my TV watching football, and my kids aren't playing in those games. So when my kids get into it, if any of them do play football or even any other sport, I'm probably going to be that asshole in the stands that is yelling and screaming and making fun of the other team's players. I'm probably going to be kicked out of a few games, which is fine with me. It just adds to my legacy of being an awesome dad, I think. But that the thing about bad sportsmanship with that, the way I would connect it is that, you know, it seems like it would be bad sportsmanship to be one of those parents, but I think it's the opposite. You know, you're yes, you're yelling and screaming and you're being a jerk and you're pissing everybody off, but I don't know how you can help it. Like when your kid's on the field, and even if your kid isn't the best, you know, the best player on the field, you know, I don't understand how you couldn't yell and scream, but that's just me. But some of the other things, I don't know if we ever really talked about this too much. I had asked Zumi at one point on a phone call about the best movies of the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, and I was looking through some of this stuff, and you can go on YouTube, of course, and you can find all the lists, you know, that people have made, like, you know, some of the unknown movies or the forgotten movies of the 80s and 90s and 2000s. But the interesting thing about the 80s and 90s was the 80s just seemed better as far as, you know, filmography, and the 90s was better with I would say story. And it's interesting because you go back, and now I'm getting to the point where I'm only in my 30s, but I'm getting to the point where I feel like I'm so old because I'll look back at 80s movies and 90s movies and it feels like a recent movie. And one of the craziest things to me is that, now I have to look this up, but I'm pretty sure it was 1993 or 94, but I'm going to look it up. Jurassic Park. Well, let's take a look at this. 1993 is when Jurassic Park came out, and most of you out there are probably adults around my age or older, and it's crazy to think that 1993 was 24 years ago, and Jurassic Park to me is still one of those movies that just seems like it was recent. So it's kind of hard to get past that barrier of, you know, like, holy shit, I'm getting old. But with the best movies of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, it's starting to change now, because you go back with some of these movies, and I would suggest not going back to some movies and watching them again because they end up sucking, or things that you hate, you know, things that you used to love, and now you watch them again as you're older and you're like, wow, this movie blows. And I can't really give a specific example. Maybe I could. Anyway, so yes, this is something I'm definitely going to have to talk to Zumi about when we actually are talking to each other, because this is a question, and he's going to hear this, so he'll be prepared for it. There's a lot of movies from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I would say specifically the 80s and 90s that I totally forgot about. Now, I'll get a movie here for you here in a second, but if I want to see if Zumi knows what I'm talking about here, because there's some movies from the 80s that I probably only watched once, maybe twice, that were really, really good movies. Now, okay, let's see. After Hours, I never saw that one. Now, I want to get to one specific. Oh, excuse me. I'm drinking beer here. In fact, I'm going to do a little plug, even though they do not sponsor us. This Black Raven stuff, or is Black Raven the company? Oh, either way, it's an Indian pale ale, and it's fucking delicious. Oh gosh, Lady Hawk. I'm pretty sure that's the one. Let me ask the wife. Sweetheart, is is Lady Hawk the movie with Matthew Broderick? Where the one where her lover, the man, turns into a wolf and she turns into a I'm pretty sure a hawk. Is that from the 80s or the 90s? Okay. Well, there's this beautiful machine called Google, and I'll just go to that. But that what? The machine called Google, the Googly. Oh, it's 1985. Now this is one of those movies that I probably wasn't allowed to watch, until later on. But it was in '85, a year after I was born, and one of the best movies I would say to come out of the '80s. Like that's a forgotten type film. Now most people, if you ask them, they'll probably know what I'm talking. They'll know what you talk about when you say Lady Hawk, but. And there's just so many movies that just get forgotten and that I just love. Like those are movies that I'll go back to and watch now, and I still think they're good films. But it's weird. The one thing that I would say, I think it's also the 90s, was when Independence Day came out. Now, yes, it had to be because I saw it with my cousin, and I was just a kid back then. Let's take a look at it. Independence Day. Now we're going to look at this, and Independence Day was 1996. Now, Independence Day, and I'm sure most of you have seen it, about 99% of the people listening have seen this movie and seen its shitty sequel. Independence Day had these clips, like these moments where they had the F-18s flying towards the spaceship, going to attack the spaceship, or when there was the dogfight between Will Smith and the alien. And if you look at them now, the difference in the technology for CGI is just so massive. The huge difference from what we have now, obviously. But I go back and look at it, and I still love the first Independence Day movie, but now it's starting to make me pull away from the film when I see some of those scenes, because the CGI is just so bad compared to what it is now. And it was probably cutting edge back then, but it's like going back to see the original Tron movie. I mean, back when that movie was made, those graphics were cutting edge, and everything that happened in that movie, there's a lot of money spent on it, and now you watch it and you're like, this movie's shit, but I think that's one thing about some of these older movies from the 80s and 90s, where you have to like put yourself back in your child self in order to enjoy it, because if you don't, it'll just be shit. Now there's some movies that stood up to time, of course, and no pun intended when I talk about Back to the Future, where there's just not a whole lot of effects driven type stuff, like there might have been with the DeLorean and all that stuff, but it just stands up with the time test. And but I I just wanted to talk about the forgotten stuff, and it's kind of hard when Zumi's not on the other side of this conversation, but yeah, there was some other stuff like there that I never got to talk about, and I'm going to talk about now. Zumi, I know you can't hear me right now, but cancer movies, we were going to talk about this, and there's a lot of cancer movies out there, and I know this is becoming a movie segment podcast, but that's okay. I have really not a whole lot else to talk about, but cancer movies, I'd say there's not a lot of them, and because I think it's such a hard subject to talk about, especially in film. But my favorites, I mean, it's terrible to say my favorite cancer movies. There's probably, of course, for recency bias, 50-50 with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen. And then, of course, oh my goodness, the one with Julia Roberts and, oh my gosh, Christelle would know this. Oh my gosh, let me see. Cancer movies. I'm totally searching this. Cancer movies. Stepmom. Of course. Stepmom. Okay, those are my two favorite cancer ones. And then you have the ones that are just kind of cheesy, like A Walk to Remember. I know it's probably a chick flick, or Sweet November with one of my favorite actors, but I just didn't like the movie. But there has to be something about cancer movies. Like, there's so many of them, but why are 90% of them shit? It might be because they were like A&E films or Lifetime original movies or something like that. But how come they don't make more cancer movies? That's an interesting thing. I guess you had Deadpool. He did have cancer, but that I don't know if you can consider that. That's like calling Die Hard a Christmas movie. It's. But let's see. Is there anything else for me to talk about besides movies? This is starting to get boring. I can feel it. I mean, this is basically my maiden voyage of talking solo, so just bear with me. Oh, I never did this. Add Crazy Unicorn Woman video to Facebook. Crazy Unicorn Woman video to Facebook. I'm going to have to look this up. Crazy Unicorn. It's probably not going to. Woman. Let me see. Oh, okay. This is. Oh my God. I could talk about this actually. This is the video, the wife zone chart, or the hot crazy matrix. I'm definitely going to add this to the Facebook page. This is if you've never seen this before, you have to see this. And I don't think I can record it through Audacity. Well, it wouldn't make any sense because you've got to see the chart anyway. So I'll post it up on Facebook here, either tonight or tomorrow. And basically what this is it's this guy. It's a joke, but it really does hold water. It's a chart showing, how to find the perfect woman according to her crazy level as opposed to her hotness level, going from 1 to 10 on hotness, but 4 to 10 on crazy, because no woman is less than a 4 crazy. So I'll definitely have to post that. And I'm just going to go through here for all of our stuff on our set list that we never really got to. I'm going to go back. I'm going back far. Let's see. We'll go back to, oh nope, he already talked about road rage and oh yes, okay. Making a baby, fun or work, or is it both? Wow, there's a lot of stuff that we didn't get to. The R1 cast conspiracy, that was probably one of Zumi's, but I'll go to the making a baby, fun or work, or both. Oh, now, I wish Christelle would just come and record with me, but she's watching a movie, so I'm going to talk about it as a dumb male. Making a baby. Now, I've actually been in this scenario where I was trying to make a baby, with a wife, where we didn't have any kids, or we had one and we wanted a boy because we already had a girl. And I would say that it's mostly fun, about 85 to 90% fun, and about 10 to 15% work. So it's a little work, but it's mostly fun. I would say that there are scenarios. Now this might be getting a little grim, but for like people that just can't have kids, or that have difficulty having kids because of either complications with their health, or say low sperm count, or something like that. That has to be work. I can't imagine how depressing that could get, because you're using something that's supposed to be fun to try to make something that you will love, but you have to go through these hoops to try to have a baby. I just can't imagine how much that would suck. I mean, in that I mean that how much it would suck to just turn sex into something that's work. That has to suck so bad. The thing that I'm going back to like episode 5 here on stuff we never actually talked about. Confessing something you probably shouldn't have done. Confessing something you probably shouldn't have done. I do have one thing. Oh, excuse me. I do have one thing that... Okay, now, Christelle, did I ever tell you the story about how I I missed out as a freshman in high school going to the school dance with a senior because I was a dumbass? And I don't remember her name because it's not important. Didn't even like her. But I had said something about, like they had started the school dance when I became a freshman because they didn't have a prom at my school because it was a private Christian school. And they just didn't, believe in that, I guess, because, dancing leads to sex. But the parents of the school decided they wanted the kids to have at least something that they could go to. So they did a private thing, like where all the kids could go. And as a freshman, I was in yearbook class, and there was a girl in my class. I don't remember her name. It was not something odd, but just something a name you don't hear every day. I can't remember. But I mean, I was sitting there and people were talking about the dance, and someone had asked me if I was going. Now, Justin, if you're listening, you know this story because you were a senior at the time. And you were in that class with me when I made this mistake. Someone had asked me if I'm going to the dance, and I said, no, not really. And they asked me why, and I was like, well, I don't have anybody to go to. And this girl, who was a senior, said, well, I'll go with you. And this person was pretty popular, and I just wasn't. I was a freshman. Nobody gave a shit. So she said, well, I'll go with you. And she meant it. And I, like an idiot, said something along the lines of, yeah, but you're, like a friend, you're neutral. And that offended her, because she was actually saying that she would go with me. And I have gotten shit for that every time it's brought up from my buddy Justin. And that was probably something that I shouldn't have done. There's a confession for that. Now we can go back. I think the farthest stuff we have back for a set list is episode 4, and we got to everything on that. We talked about our drunk stories. We talked, oh my goodness, I'm going back is crazy. Zumi, you're going to have to do this if you're listening. Why does wet shit feel great and horrible at the same time? I remember that. Almost got picked up by a hooker. That was definitely Zumi's story, not mine. The we need to talk, that was a good one. Oh my gosh, how far have I gone? Oh, I've got about 25 minutes. About Zumi, you went about this long, so I'll probably cut it short here in a minute. But oh man, Zumi, we're gonna have to go back and look at some of this stuff because this is crazy. There's some stuff that we never got to that we need to talk about. And it's kind of hilarious. But, yeah, I know that I did terrible on my first solo recording, so please forgive me. I'm sure that our, joint episode will be much better on Saturday. So I guess I'll just go ahead and do the credits. And Zumi, don't forget to, ask me some of those questions that I told you I wouldn't get to on my solo, and I'd do it when I got with you. This has been the Nothing Better to Listen to podcast. Let's see. Let's get through the reads here. This episode can be downloaded through iTunes or the Google Play Store, or you can go directly to shoutengine.com and just search for us at NBTLT. And you should be able to find us pretty easy on there because that's where we're hosted out of. Our bumper music is provided by bensound.com. That's BENSOUND.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook, or you can talk to us on Twitter at NBTLT Podcast, or you can send us comments, questions, rants, anger, any of that stuff to our email, nbtltpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, now you can find us on Reddit. Our subreddit is r/NBTLT. And so you just go to reddit.com and search NBTLT, and you'll be able to find us. And that, I'm hoping, will be one of our good forums for good discussions and stuff like that. And we'll always post our most current episodes and videos and all that kind of stuff on there. But other than that, that's going to be it for this week's weird, odd, special edition of the Nothing Better to Listen to podcast. I'm Lonnie. Have a great night.